What's going on, guys? Let's give a huge shout out to Editor X for sponsoring this video, and let's jump in. So let's take a look at our wireframe just to remind ourselves what we did for the pricing and sign up. You're gonna see that it's very similar to the hero, where we have a transparent object scrolling down and it hides behind the sign up. We already created this, so going back in our workspace, we need to create two sections. These blank sections, I'm going to add a background color to the very last one. This is going to be our sign up section. And then what we want to do is just rename these sections quickly, so it just feels a little bit cleaner to work with. Okay, that looks good. For the pricing, we want to do is expand it to have a minimum of 1600 pixels. Remember, we need enough length in order for us to create that effect. I'm going to go ahead and make this a gray background. And for now, we'll just go ahead and move forward with the sign up. Don't worry, we're going to come back to this in just a little bit. Let's focus on adding the offset triangle. Start by adding the image into our section. And remember, we already created this in Figma. So here we can see that it's 700 pixels tall. Of course, we can't see it, but if you start dragging up a little bit, we're gonna see that corner come in again. Let's expand this and just enough so that we can play around with the position. So 100% width, and we're gonna put in minus 700 pixels in the margin. Notice that it's in fluid mode, so we don't have a height defined, which would be a good idea that we do. But for now, let's look at the focal point. We want to choose the very top middle of it so that we can get both the top left and top right corners to show. What we want to do is make sure that the margin is minus 700 pixels and the minimum height is 700. Make sure we clear the height also, so it's auto. All right, so now if we go to the add section, we want to go into our contact forms and simply drag subscribe and make sure that it's in this section. Let's go ahead and align it to the very top with negative margins. We can have it overlap between the triangle and the main section, just like this. So for the pricing section, I was thinking we could just have a very big title of monthly pricing plans. We can go ahead and add in this title, gonna style it just a little bit. So we have a nice big font, and then we can start inserting all these graphics that we created in Figma. Like for example, these diagonal shape, we can center that in the middle. Okay, we can balance this design by having an image on the top right and on the bottom left. Very similar to how we did the products. And add a little bit of shadow. You have distance, the blur, and to finalize, let me go ahead and add the parallax within this image. Yeah, this is nice. This design feels like things are moving. All right, so let's continue. Here, I'm just selecting an image we've used previously, but with the crop. With Photo Studio, we can crop it, we can rotate it, we can flip it. And that gives us some flexibility without me having to go into another tool and figuring it out. We might want to change a little bit of that focus point on this image just to make sure we get the right spot. All right, and I think this one looks pretty good. We're gonna add the pricing, which is just $9.99, using the styles. And if you remember, back when I showed you guys the designs, in Figma, we created this pattern. The pattern that I'm using are based on those little shapes. And it's very simple. I'm going to export this as an image and let's go ahead and add it in here. What I want to do is center it into place and start fading it out just a little bit. I created this very simple GIF of those four shapes. There's another way you can reset the image. You can do this simply by clicking on the cogwheel. There's a button that says reset image, and that will automatically make that image the correct size for us. Let's go ahead and preview this. Okay, this is looking pretty good to me. I think the only thing we're missing now is that transparent video in the middle. But before we do that, let's go ahead and style the sign up a bit more. We can change the styles, we can always use our theme manager, we can add in our logos that are cleaner, and even change the font sizes on some of these buttons. Okay, so if we click on the settings for the submit button, we can change the name of the label from there, and we can decide where this user goes next. So think of it like the action, right? Like what happens when someone submits the form. I'm just gonna go ahead and show a success message, and this message is always going to appear right below, but you can place it anywhere you want. I also want to increase the border size of this field and maybe change the typography as well. Go ahead and use the theme of paragraph 2. There we go. And then for the text of our success message, we can make this a little bit stronger. And we can even add emojis to make it fun. All right, once you select the form, we get additional settings. These settings can let us manage the styles, the design. We can customize each individual field this way. For example, here you have layout where you can align the text in a certain way, and you can even add padding within the input field. I'm gonna go ahead and just change some of the value of colors and background, and there's really not much you wanna do here except make sure that you have the thank you message. Oh yeah, and don't forget the footer. We can start adding styles to match the sign up section. I see a pretty big gap between the form and the footer. We can simply remove the minimum height of our final section and instead use padding. So we're adding maybe 100 pixels would be good. Yeah, there we go. Now that we have that, we can go back and start thinking about the transparent object that we want. Let's open up our ad panel under media. We want to select transparent video just like we did in the earlier lessons. Okay, let's quickly change that to the one we really liked, which is the crystal. Make sure that it's on the very top, and we can start using the negative margin values that we learned earlier as well. We can also switch the scroll effect to sticky. And for the margins, we're gonna have that go maybe minus 400 pixels. I think that works. And finally, we want to make sure this is a fixed element. I don't want it to scale proportionate to the viewport. So right now my settings look good. And there we go. I'm adding a 25% offset so that I can see how this looks as I scroll down the page. Nice. To finalize, we need to make sure that each section has an anchor ID. When we go to the top navigation and manage our menu, we can simply change the anchor link to whatever the name of the ID we gave. Alright guys, in later lessons, we'll take a look at custom form integrations and other solutions from the marketplace.